Wow.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, on behalf of your Denver-based podcast crew, we appreciate you joining us for the Friendly Vibes.
Coming to you live from TSS Universidad. I'm turning myself down because I'm too loud with it. I'm here with a great guest that I've been so excited to talk to. He's taken on an undertaking and a half, a 50-state national tour. Here to Pee is the name of the tour. Ren Q Comedy. Welcome into the Top Shelf Studios. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here in this lovely, like, very cushy couch with, look at this beautiful cappuccino that they made me. You see how, like, lovely this is? What'd you say, elitist cappuccinist earlier? Yeah, that was accurate. This is an elite cappuccino. Absolutely prime.
Well, we do what we can with our limited resources. Thanks for giving us a little bit of your time.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Thanks for having me.
I can see behind the veil of I've just been sprinting up a Sisyphus style. There's rocks to push, and I'm pushing them, and it just keeps getting steeper.
That's right.
How did, before we get into like your stand-up origin story, can we talk about the origin story of this tour?
Yeah, so the Here to Pee tour, for homies that have not heard the word on the street, is a 50-state tour. It's all trans comedians. And so, we have a couple people that are traveling to a bunch of places with us, and we are trying to highlight local acts every single place that we go. And every show, we're raising money for local LGBTQ nonprofits that are kind of local to that region, to that area. And trying to just kind of, bring a little bit more of a diversified perspective, bring a little bit of, some of those marginalized voices up a little bit, both in kind of the comedy world and also just in communities in general. And I think that that's really needed right now because for some reason, I don't know, like every other executive order seems to be about trans people. And so just, bringing a little bit of, bringing some giggles, and also just bringing up the conversation to folks in general. But it started as almost a joke. Actually was at a show in Boulder, which is really close to where I live, and which is funny because I had gotten back from like a tour that like hopped around I think 10 states or something, and which was great, and I had a great experience, and all the shows were lovely. And I get home, and I was like, oh, I'm on my home turf. I'm at a show with my buddies. This is great. And I went to the bathroom. And I had some dudes kind of accost me, and I think that it wasn't even transphobic. I think it was just homophobic because usually people that can't tell. And so, but they were just drunk dude bros that were clearly looking for a fight. And I was like, man, I could probably take 2 homies. I don't think I can take 4 in this tiny little bathroom. There's no way.
So they couldn't even place their ignorance correctly.
No,
nice.
I know, right? I was like, how gender affirming, right? They just think I'm a twink.
Accidentally ally.
Right. Accidental ally. Let me beat you up. And I hadn't been that panicked in a hot minute. And I've been in fights. I've had my fair share of tussles, right? And I'm from West Virginia too. So it's you know what I mean? Our people know how to tussle, but at the same time, I was just no, there's just no way. If something happens here, there's no way that I can do anything. And I didn't even get to pee. Someone fortunately walked in and out at the very right moment that I could kind of sweep behind their coattails as a safety, oh, I'm going to be with this person. And if they choose to get me, then at least somebody knows because I'm up on a dude, as he's leaving the bathroom. And I went back to the show because I was just attending. I was just attending a friend's show. And I was oh my God, that just actually happened. And I walk through this world with a lot of privileges like a white guy, right? And so sometimes I'm anxious, and I think it's just me being anxious. And this was the first time that I was yo, I think that was very a justified, fearful moment. And in the moment I couldn't separate out that they didn't know I was trans. Probably, maybe they did, but good eye, I guess. But I was this is wild. And that was right around the time that, I think, God, forgive me for maybe not getting their name right, but I think their name was Nex. And they were cute little non-binary teenager that like got murdered in their school bathroom, basically. Like they were assaulted and they died of like concussive wounds.
Like
and
getting
like,
beat up by multiple people.
Yeah, and it was by women actually. They were like trans mask kind of non-binary, and like they were in the women's room and they were beat up by girls at school.
That's
and
horrible.
Like, yeah, and so it was like that same like week that happened, and I was like,
so you're already on edge.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like real. Like, and also like, I don't know, you like look through the photos of people like that and like my heart just like broke because I was like, I looked like that when I was 16. Like I looked like that kid, you know, and I was like, had I been, you know what I mean, in the wrong state with the wrong classmates in the wrong bathroom at the wrong time, as I had almost just been at a comedy show in my like in the most place that I live, in Boulder, Colorado, like what, you know what I mean? Like this is not just like statistic, you know, real. It's like real in everyone's everyday life right now, and like I was like, I don't know, just processing about that. And I was like, what if we went to like I was like, how many states have even like implemented anti-trans legislation about this? Because I think that, you know, it's a more of a cultural thing, but just even logistically, like legislatively, it was like, think about like 12 places that had implemented laws about it. Most of them are about like federal buildings and, you know, that also counts for like schools and like kind of public places, right? And
you get those like downflow impacts because funding happens.
Right. Yeah. And so it like is, you know, super extra worse in those places because we know that policy informs culture, right? Even if it's not enforced. And so I was like, well, it's like 12 places. And then I was like, what about places that have made like not just bathroom legislation, but just like any anti-trans stuff at all? And that was like, oh gosh, it was like 38 states or something that had like some sort of anti-trans kind of bill, medical care, bathroom stuff, sport, anything, you know what I mean? It's just like, it was like most of the places. And I made a joke as I was like looking this up with my friend to be like, you know, well, if it's already like 40 places, we might as well just go do all 50. And they were like, ha ha. And I said, ha ha. And as we started to kind of put this together, we were like, oh, like, what if it was all 50? And we looked up to be like, oh, like, who's done that before? Like, and we couldn't find anything really. There had been like a couple of, like, we don't know any trans people that have done it. We don't know of any queer people at all that have done it.
Wow.
There is no, like, it's not necessarily a metric, I guess, that we track. But at the same time, like, I don't know. I know people that got their kind of own personal little count and they're like, you know what I mean? So it seems weird that, like,
you would have think someone would have gone for the brand play of the thing.
Yeah.
Or by now.
Yeah.
Right?
Nobody has. And like, at least we don't know about it. And certainly nobody has kind of on this scale to try to like be out about that. Like, I'm out and we're doing it and we're doing it for this reason. You know what I mean?
The intent comes with the tour.
Yeah. So like, I think that was like definitely a pull for me. Cause I was like, my little like inner child, like, was like, no, but somebody has to have, like, I just refused to believe that like that nobody had done it. I just kept looking it up and looking the same Google search, same different keywords, you know, just trying to find anybody. And I was like, nobody's actually done it. And at least nobody has said that they have, if they have, or like come out and been, you know, like public about it. And my little like kid heart just broke in that moment where I was like, what do you mean that no trans person has ever even tried to go all 50 states? What do you mean? Is it really that bad? You know? And like, I was
Alaska's that bad?
I love it. Shout out Anchorage, Alaska. Y'all fun. I've had a great shows there, but like, yeah. So I was like, all right, well, we're doing it then. You know what I mean? Because I was like, well, somebody's better do it. And even if I die trying, y'all better pick it up and do it without me. You know what I mean? Like, so that's the origin of the tour. And
that's epic, man.
Thank you. And I'm excited. And we're doing West Coast starting a month from literally today.
Wow. That's going to be like a couple weeks when this comes out. Wow, that's exciting. Yeah. So are you... what is how do you even go about the logistics? I think you're working with Jeff Sonic a little bit on this?
I'm literally about to. I'm like, you want to see this spreadsheet, King? I'm not even kidding. I'm like, these are the logistics. I like was basically like, okay, I like put out kind of a random call, and I was like, so this is kind of the spreadsheet. If you can see, like, you can scroll over, but you can see it's basically like the date, the place, the venue and the nonprofit. And then it'll be like, oh, is the venue confirmed? Is like the nonprofit confirmed? Are they still pending? Did I just send them an Instagram message? It's just some notes about it. You know what I mean? Like, and what are the links to everything once it's finalized? So like, that's the kind of, you know, real meat of it. But yeah, it started out just reaching out to the community because I was like, if we're going to do this, we're not going to be able to do it on our own. So partnering with nonprofits, I think, is important to, first of all, elevate the work that they're doing, and then being able to honestly just kind of rely on word of mouth within the queer community has been huge, because it's like, oh, I'll contact a dude in, you know, Atlanta who like runs a queer comedy show down there. And he's like, oh, I know these like 3 trans people and we actually run that. Do you want to do the comedy? Our comedy show is the first of, and you could just come in, and then we just kind of do it together.
On the spectrum of community building, queer, gay, LGBT, best.
Oh yeah.
White men, worst. We're terrible at it. We got no hope for community building. Just dog shit.
Y'all got sport still, you know?
Do we think we're going to get people to show up to a thing? People don't show up to things anymore.
SEC football, we got that.
SEC football,
That's right.
Fair enough. Okay.
That's right.
That's our like.
Like, what do you, community? I have an entire fantasy football league. No, not all white men culture being like deeply or subtly problematic.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally all the time.
Come on.
Yeah, no, I've been very grateful for the queer community and helping set this up. And
so that word of mouth has been like, you've been able to take an organic idea that came about from an organic life experience, an organic, real passion, and then that's propelled through real people. Man, that's just like so exciting.
It's been great.
It's a better way to go about things, I think. Like art, like making a cool thing happen. Like that's the right way to do it, man. That's so great.
And it's been nice to like, I don't know, a lot of folks don't have any reason to help us. They're not trans. They're, you know what I mean? A lot of these are like allies or like gay guys, or you know what I mean? Like they're not necessarily like within kind of the group that we're spotlighting here. And they're like, oh man, you know, I know these homies in Birmingham. You gotta like hit them up. And if you're going to go up to South Carolina, then you should hit up these 3 bars. And if you're going to be in this town, you know, just make sure that you leave before dark, and like, just like keeping an eye out for us in like every way. And I'm like, man, y'all have no reason to help us. And they're like, nah, man, like we they like want to do it. And like I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful that people have like stepped up and helped and like been just very generous with us as far as spreading the word and giving us, you know, mutual connections. And I think it's just because they also kind of believe like, oh, this is important for the community right now. And like, that's been great. So yeah, no, like I'm excited. We like, I like crossed the, we booked our 28th state yesterday, like confirmed venue, have a ticket link and everything.
Is that more
like,
states than weed is legalized, or is he?
Oh, that's
got to go over that mark. That's a fun mark
Talk
to
about medically or recreationally? Because that's more states recreationally.
do rec. Because there's a lot of medical. There's like 30 some medical, I think.
I'll say West Virginia's got medical.
Did you start comedy out in West Virginia or here?
Not exactly. I have a theater kid background.
Gotcha.
And I did a lot of theater in West Virginia, but I did not start comedy until I moved away. And I actually started in Atlanta. I was like kind of living on the road a little bit, and I was just cruising through Atlanta, and I really wanted to give it a try. I was a huge comedy fan growing up, but I was like, I could never. And
little old me.
Who, me? And I went to some like smoky pub in Atlanta, thinking it was going to go terribly. Did a very rudimentary version of what some of my like kind of short sets now are in some ways. And 22.
22 legal right.
Oh, look at that. God, take that, marijuana.
That's right. Calling by your full legal name.
We're taking your lunch, Kush.
So, yeah, no, getting past the like halfway mark for the country was like, I don't know, it kind of felt like, okay, we're actually gonna do it. Like, I think we're gonna, you know what I mean? I was like, oh, it's like January still, and we're already like booked up in more than half of our spots. Like,
because once you get the snowball big enough, it just rolls.
Yeah, I think so. And like, also, I don't know, I might just be like, I don't know if it's like determined, delusional enough, maybe, that I'm just like, at this point, I'm just like, well, we're just doing it. I don't care if it takes me like a year and a half, if I'm like still waiting on like one, if I have to set up like a show next to like an open field in like North Dakota, like I will, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I'm like, all venues, big and small, like we are just going to do it. And that gives us, in some ways it's nice, because it's like, it doesn't need to be perfect.
It doesn't have to be a theater.
It doesn't have to be a theater. It doesn't have to, you know what I mean? Like, we're doing stuff at like pizza shops, and we also have like a cool theater in Broadway. You know what I mean? So it's like we have a little bit of both, and I think that that's like, I don't know, also speaking to this country, you know what I mean? Like, that's what it is to me, you know? Like,
that's what I was thinking earlier when you're talking about the origins, is like, wow, to bring like a core thesis of comedy around a political tied topic, and, you know, an important life impacting topic, and then go to these places where you might be in a pizza shop in South Dakota, and it might be, you know, hopefully you're going to have community there, obviously, because that's who's helping this tour happen.
There's some shows where I'm like, I don't know.
Right?
I don't know.
Right?
Like, but I think that,
have you done comedy in any states that you're like, oh, I don't know about going back to there?
You know, interestingly, like, no.
That's good.
Like, yeah, I've had like almost the opposite experience, where it's like I'll go to places that are pretty conservative, and I'll be like
Surprised.
anxious, and then I'll be like so surprised at how like they're like rowdy. And like I also know that at my core though too, because like you know, West Virginia gets a really bad rap for being conservative. Also, West Virginia, best laughers in the country, period. Like, end of debate. Like, it's just hands down, like, best laughers. West Virginians know how to laugh. I knew that growing up there, and like getting to go back and do shows there. That's just so apparent that they're just rowdy and ready to go. And I think that similarly, like Dallas, a lot of Texans, they're great. Even if they're like kind of concerned, they're great at a comedy show. They have a great sense of humor, right? And so thinking about it in that way has been like interesting. Some of my tougher shows have actually been in, you know, pretty liberal places. I would say Boulder, San Francisco, for sure. Like, I've had like some audiences. Yeah.
Like, I don't think like the commoner might not understand, but like, you know, people that are working blue collar jobs at a factory and then coming out to slam light beers,
they want to laugh.
They're there to laugh.
They're ready to laugh. Like, homies in
I started at a club in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, when I was going to college out there, and it's like, you know, basement. Like, these people worked at the Quaker factory all week, and they're here to laugh.
I was gonna say, I bet they got a great sense of humor.
Great laughers too.
Great sense of humor. Yeah,
it's a classic blue city in a red state or whatever. You get the red blue mix, and people that are there to just laugh.
Yeah,
and I think it's powerful. I'm excited to hear back after the tour what you know, new takeaways you have of the spectrum of people, or if you run into anyone that surprises you in a good or a bad way, and what that does to grow you and the show. I mean, I would imagine that if something happens at state 30, you know, and it's impactful, you're going to talk about it for those last 20 states. Yeah,
totally. And I'm like, I'm always grateful to be like proven wrong sometimes too, you know what I mean? I think that that's important too, is that it's like, it's not just saying like, oh, other people aren't open-minded and that's why they don't want to come. It's like, no, like, as a comedian, there's part of my job that's also like, how can I be better at my job to figure out how to make my genuine experience also genuinely like funny, relatable, and like receivable by a different audience that isn't necessarily me or my people, right? And like, I had a really powerful moment doing it was a Blue Cactus Room in Pueblo, Colorado. And so it's still in Colorado, but like Pueblo is definitely like, it's got a vibe, you know?
Hey, I got my puppy there at Cracker Barrel. It's got a vibe.
Cracker Barrel Maggie. Oh,
Cracker Barrel is good for three things, and you know it, and I know it, Ren. It's trafficking pets, kids, and old people to breakfast at 5 a.m.
That's correct. Also, that fried okra, fam. I could like live off that.
Just like the ICBMs that are strategically located all across this great country, Cracker Barrels have been placed across the interstate system. Why do you think we built the highways, folks?
God, why we got caught?
Yeah, dude, it's all strategical trafficking. Continue. I'm sorry.
True. Also,
I didn't
like,
mean to derail us with that. That's
no, but now I'm just thinking about how like Cracker Barrel leaned into the racism and also like knew that from the get go. And I'm like, you knew you were like kind of like it's an exclusionary thing, and you also decided to name it Cracker Barrel.
It's almost like it's a CIA op. like they're located strategically across the
All of
interstate
the-
system. I'm just saying, folks.
It's like a
What's in the
casino.
bottom of
They're
the
like
barrel?
they're like pumping in oxygen and like the gift shop.
There's lots of certain, like they're all the same. They have similar decor. There's reasons that they're, they have psychiatrists and psychologists come into the Cracker Barrel and be, how can we make it more crackery and more barrel?
How can we make it more crackery? They're like,
This parking lot's full of people trafficking kids and dogs. We need to expand the parking lot.
do you think that they like have a I always wondered this when I went there as a kid. Do you think that they like find the knickknacks that look old at old places local? Do you think those are locally sourced knickknacks? Or do you think they like tarnish them kind of like how we do that with jeans where it's like we'll like rub jeans to make them look used? You know what I mean? Do you think they have like an old knickknack factory?
It's like they get them from like some like the same as like the really expensive Japanese jeans that have been treated for 3 years. They're like some guy in Japan is just like fiddling through old shit to put stuff together to make the perfect knickknack. Like, this one's going to Wichita, Kansas.
Man, I just had like an entire, like, it was so funny. I was just riffing with PJ Johnson and Anthony Crawford at the Gong Show. And it was literally a topic. We were just like, what's in the knickknack box? And we're like, definitely a spool of thread with no thread on it. And someone was just like, on like a belt buckle or like a weird lock, like key without a lock. And like, man, it was so funny. And it was like, they were like, oh, not a piece of candy, a cough drop. And everyone was like, a cough drop. Like, it was ridiculous. Anyway, we completely derailed on Cracker Barrel. Pueblo, Colorado. I went to Pueblo. Great room. Donna runs a wonderful room down in Pueblo at the Blue Cactus. And I walk in and it was a lot of old, kind of conservative looking white folks and some pretty burly looking dudes, and I immediately was like, and I'm headlining, and I was just like, okay, like, here we go. And I was kind of like getting anxious, and I was like, they're not going to like me, and like, they're going to, you know what I mean? And they're stuck with me it's not just like 10 minutes and off. It's like, they're stuck with me for like half an hour. You know what I mean? That's some time to kill. And I like caught myself, and I was like, okay, like, I need to stop putting expectations on these people. Like, I need to like be a little bit more open-minded about it and like try to go in with like good intentions. I had a great show. We had an awesome time together. Like, with that audience and I had a great time together, and we laughed and it was fun, and they played with me and it was fun. And then afterwards they were like so kind, coming up, asking real questions, like, and like, yeah, they're like quote unquote ignorant questions, but like, I think that's like a silly thing to think. Like, people are just asking to not be rude. They want to know. You know what I mean? Like,
I'd only seen you. I think I've only seen you do one set at South, but you spoke a little bit to, I think, some element of that, people asking ignorant questions, and your perspective on it was very, I think, fresh.
Thanks.
Like, yeah, people are going to ask ignorant questions, and if I want to answer them, I can. And
right.
Maybe they're less ignorant if I answer them.
Yeah, not all trans people like want to be in an educator position all the time.
Totally.
I totally respect that, but also like I find it to be like a joy. You know what I mean? Like, I find it to be like it's like a kind of part of my, it's like, it's part of my, what I can bring to the table.
Is it like tertiary to stand up where you're is part of that relationship building?
Yeah, I think that absolutely, like, it's like you have to have a connection
building is better,
to like laugh with somebody, and like also like laughing with somebody is such a great connection to have. And so then to kind of take that a step forward, it's like, I don't know, man, like someone is, and this is what really hit me in Pueblo too, is that I realized like in that moment, like those people were so kind to me. They were so nice. And I like had this moment afterwards where they're like being so vulnerable with me too. They're asking really like kind of hard questions. They're like, my niece is, a trans girl, and I don't know what to do, and I want to be supportive, but I don't know what the right thing to say. And like, I don't even know where to begin. Like, what do I do? And
that's hard.
Yeah, like for someone to say they don't know something and be like, I'm ignorant about this and I'm afraid of messing up and I'm asking for help. Like, that's such a, like, that's so brave of somebody to like admit, like, I don't know how to do this right, or like, I want to be able to do this better. And like, I'm like, man, that's so like noble. You know what I mean? Like, what a lovely thing, and I like so fully realized in that moment, like, yo, I was the bigot here today. I walked in here thinking like, oh, these Trumpers aren't going to like me. Like, what are they even going to do with, are they even going to understand this? Like, what are they, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to be, and I was like so judgmental. And they were so kind and so open and so vulnerable and brave with me. And like, that really hit me. You know what I mean? To be like, oh, like if I'm expecting other people to be open-minded about my experience and be willing to be wrong about something, like I gotta be willing to do that too. Like I have to be willing to be wrong about them too. I have to be like, you know, in that place of being able to be receptive, right? Like if I can't actually extend my hand out, how can I possibly expect somebody to take it? You know? And so that was like really impactful. And so I think that now I like revel in those moments, especially in like, I don't know, you know, like real like southern states or conservative states, or, you know, like real kind of, I don't know, not to say stuck up, but real like, I don't know, puckery rooms, I would say. The butts are very puckered. It's like an honor to be able to take on that challenge, and it's so cool to get to be proven wrong in ways that make me more optimistic about the world.
Do you think it makes you a better comedian faster to be faced by those extra challenges too?
Totally, because it's like the whole of, at least for me, like where my best jokes come from are like kind of that outsider perspective of like stranger in a strange land, you know? And so suddenly you can have a very fresh take on a very old thing. Like I feel that about like a couple jokes I have about like tampons, or like, you know what I mean? Something that's like really Joe average, and they're some of my heaviest hitting jokes. And like, I really enjoy them because of that. And so being kind of confronted with like a different perspective, it's like, okay, how can I either look at this and be like, I hate this, or I love this, or like, like I haven't thought about it, or like, I see that is your experience, but like my experience is like, even as simple as like someone being like talking about like erectile dysfunction, and I'm just like, well, that's funny because I don't really have that. My dicks work all the time because they are store-bought. You know, like right. That in and of itself is like just a funny dichotomy.
Totally.
And so it just kind of, I feel like is really fertile ground for like
connection
jokes.
and comedy.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah, you know.
I always find that to be the most fun political commentary of like, I'm going to talk about my life and my situation, how it's impacted by politics, and then we're going to jump into this side and show why it's wrong and funny and ignorant, and this side and show why it's wrong and funny and ignorant.
Yeah.
And then we can come together around, man, we're all just wrong and funny and ignorant.
Right, exactly. I think that is such it's my favorite way to like get to be close and connected to somebody. And it's like laughter is the swiftest route to allyship, because you just like be wanting to be on the in of a joke together, where like we both get it. I get it. He gets it. We get it together. Like you're immediately on the same team, right? If you want that at the same time. So instead of like being like, well, I believe this, and you know, that means that you don't believe this, or that you couldn't possibly think this about me, or how dare you think this about me? Like, yeah, all of that is like still real. But if we can maybe get some common denominator, even if it's a joke, that's just something, right?
Hatred for trucks with loud non-mufflers. Come on, muffle your trucks, folks. I'm trying to do a podcast here.
It's like muzzle your dog, muffle your truck.
Muffle your truck. Come on. Well, I think it's what makes me love the art form so much. I've been a door guy for what now, like 4 years of my life, or between both clubs, and it's like, man, I wouldn't trade those hours in the room for anything, because it's like I get to see such a diverse array of 300 to 500 people come in the door. And then they all sit together really tight, and they're uncomfortable, and they don't want to be that close to other people, and they're, a little bit antsy. And then they all kind of just let life pause for an hour, and they get to not worry about what they think the world should be or what their political ideology is. They get to just like really just transform into this collective connection, collective consciousness of comedy. And it's just beautiful to me, and it's sappy and stupid and dumb, but like that's really like what keeps me coming back.
I'm such a sap. I love that stuff. I'm so on that train with you, and I think that it's just so magical to see it happen. And like I love shows where like I did a show, I think it was the Bear Show. Yeah, it was with Chris Wellman, runs a wonderful naked comedy show in Denver.
Not worked up the chops to even think about.
Oh my god, it's so fun.
I'm so scared.
I was too, and I was.
It'd be fucking amazing though.
Yeah, and
people
like
just laugh at me the whole time because of my body.
Right, and like that show was like so cool because everyone like was standing outside, like we're waiting to get in, and everyone's like awkward because we're about to be naked together here shortly, and so it's like extra. It's like audience awkward plus like another layer, and so everyone's like so uncomfortable. And then like once you're in there, people were like falling over each other laughing. Everyone's like kind of just grooving together. You can feel that there's this like vibe in the room, and there's like 100 people in there, and like it was amazing. And I, especially during that show, I realized like, oh, as the performer, I watched like other people go up, and the audience would mirror the performer's like behavior or like their kind of attitude, what they were giving off. Like somebody would go up and be really nervous, and I could see physically the audience kind of like tighten up, or like someone would go up there and be like really goofy, and like it was really cute. Like Corey Stevens was on that show with me, and he was like he was lovely, and he was like really goofy, you know, he was still nervous, but he was like goofy, and like people were like he like, I'm a little nervous, but I can be goofy too. And I saw, you know, Haley Raven went up and did incredible work, and she was so cool and confident and like cutting, and it was amazing. And I just was like, I had just such respect for someone to like model that, and like the audience was immediately like just like sitting up straighter, and like it was so neat to see like, oh, like we get like. And so my goal that show, I tried to make for myself to be like, you know, I'm gonna give other people permission to be silly in their bodies, because if I can go up there and be silly and confident, then like maybe they'll be kind of feel like they're given permission to do that at the same time. And it like worked. I like saw it work, and I had so much fun. And some of the kind of vulnerable pieces where I'm like, my armpit flap, or like, you know, I was like, I mean, you know, it was like I was able to make jokes about it because it was really authentic, and like, you know, turn around because you're in like a 360 kind of stage.
Oh, you're in the round?
Yeah.
Oh my God,
it's ridiculous. And I like turned around for like this girl, and I was like, man, you've been getting like the best view of like my anal fissures that anyone may have ever gotten in my whole life. Yeah, and like people like really connected in that moment. I was like talking about like ass sweat, and people were like losing their minds, you know, because it was just real. And so suddenly this like thing that I was worried about was like judgment, like in my acceptance of it in that moment, in my body, in front of other people, like they were able to let loose and let their guard down. And suddenly we were all like feeling that energy together. And it went from being like, we're strangers to being like, we're all friends and like, we're in it together. And like, that's so beautiful. So cool, man. I was just like that. I like walked away from that show and I was like, man, like comedy's magic. I was like, this is so neat. I love my job. Yeah.
Well, speaking of love my job, I get to do one of my favorite things. And that's feed my meat to a new guest. Smoked chicken wings. I guess I should be more specific.
Not my first meat.
We're going to kick us to break with our signature station identification. Ren, have you heard the radio before?
Have I heard the radio?
The AMs and the FMs?
I'm a big NPR. So like...
Well, this is our signature station identification. It might be as far from NPR as it gets. You're listening to 91.1. Oh shit, was that another plane? We'll be right back. We're back. We're live. It's the After Hours show, and our bellies are full of chicken.
Yo, that chicken was so good. Also, I'm so proud of myself for not saying wow this time that you clicked that. I almost did, and I was like, no, we learned. We've learned our lesson.
Your name's still on there, Ren.
Well, good.
We need a little wing review from you.
Wing review. Oh, man. Okay. Tender, like pull. It was so, you know, when you can like do like a good like and like you get like the full bone off, like that was so satisfying. Like we like got that, like the even the little like ligaments were all like ready. They were just ready to like fall off, you know, just like me any time I do leg day. It was, yeah. And then also just like the rub was like so, it was perfectly sweet and smoky without having too much of that hickory vibe that sometimes you get with like smoked chicken, especially where it like simultaneously dries it out and then it makes it taste kind of like chemically. And I was just like, I do not need this to taste like the John Deere store. You know what I mean? So it was like, we were like hitting that perfect balance, and it was just like, oh man, that was really great. And it's like rare that you'll get kind of the chicken like kind of skin to with like the rub to like get like equally like it's yummy, sticky, sweet, and also like tender and easy to just kind of like pull, you know what I mean? Like it was like both, and I was like, oh my god, that was so good. That was so good. Yeah, the only critique, and it's just because I'm a spice fiend, and also they were so good that I didn't actually put any like hot sauce on them because I was like, well, the rub is just phenomenal enough. I love a little like spicy rub, and that, you know what I mean? And then I'll like throw some like sauce on. What's your favorite hot sauce, dog?
You know, next time I will go all out with the spice for you. I've been a bit still, even with people that are like, I like spice, I'm a bit tentative.
We're in Colorado. That does not like, yeah, you don't know what someone means by that.
Well, when I go to Indian food, I go, look at me. Don't look at me. Now give me the Indian family spice.
Do you have a favorite hot sauce?
Like, look at me. Now don't look at me. Now give me the Indian hot.
Now don't look at me.
Like this, it's not right. It's not adding up to what the spice level I want is. Burn me, folks. Make me hurt. I really do like to hurt from the spice.
Oh my God. It was my like pandemic coping is I would watch Hot Ones and I would like buy the same hot sauces and I would do it to be like, I was like, can I keep up with Rachel Ray? You know what I mean? Like, yo, shout out Rachel Ray. She like took that like a champ. She was like, I'm not going to eat the chicken. I'm just going to have the hot sauce. And she would just take like a tablespoon of the hot sauce and just take it and be like, wow, really acidic. That was really good. And like just keep on going. And I was like, what a queen. I was like, I love her. Nah, dude. Yeah, I love hot sauce. Big shout out to it's garlic reaper sauce is my favorite hot sauce I've ever had. It's so tasty and it's so unbelievably spicy, but like to be so hot and then also be so enticingly good that you just keep going back bite after bite. It's like
Rihanna.
God, true masochism. It's amazing. Yeah.
Just trying to think of someone that embodied that. I mean, Rihanna's a queen.
Rihanna.
True queen.
Rihanna.
There's lots out there. I mean, that was just the first name.
That's real. Rihanna do be like that.
I'm been like, under my umbrella for a while.
That's right. She's Rihanna is just a gem. I don't know if I can actually think of someone that is like objectively prettier than Rihanna most of the time. You know what I mean? I'm like one of the most hot and talented people on the planet.
Maybe Aaron Gordon. He's like super hot.
Fair.
I don't know if like that's like maybe it's like A1, A2.
Tier,
you know, they're both on the S or whatever.
Are you Rihanna hot? I don't know. Yeah. No, wings were fantastic. Rihanna level fantastic. Rihanna level iconic wings.
Rihanna out of 10.
Rihanna out of 10.
Thank you. Well, it's been a pleasure to chop it up. I really have enjoyed like just talking to you, man. You're a smart, funny, awesome dude.
Oh my God, thank you. These homies have been so sweet. And they like fed me. He was like, I have a gift. I'm gonna give you a cute. Give me a Frisbee in my favorite color and a signed copy of this like really funny book that you should look at. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. This has been so cool. Yeah. No. I'm glad to know you, homie, and glad to know like all the cool stuff that you're up to as well, and like keeping the comedy scene going within the community here in Denver, because I think that a lot of people don't actually know how hot the Denver scene is for comedy and how many good comics it is cranking out like a mill. It is wild. I'm very glad to come up here in like my comedy journey, because like I feel like it's made me like very much more tight as a performer. And
I think in 20 years I think we're going to have more national touring headliners that came out of the Denver scene during this like 10-year gap or whatever than any other. Like, I think we're going to be up there with like a New York or an Austin in terms of output of comics from a scene. There's so many people that are just lying in wait to be huge.
And they're great here. Like, that's the thing too, is that I feel like I consistently go to an open mic and get real belly laughs, you know? Like, it is not uncommon for me to be like, oh, wow, that was like a hell of a show. And I'm like, that was literally just like a Tuesday night mic. You know what I mean? And that is so cool. I go to other cities and I do not necessarily always have that experience, right? And I'll see people really kind of not necessarily, I don't know, it's not necessarily as competitive, and homies aren't necessarily leveling each other up, and like they're pretty mean to each other, so there's not like a lot of note passing. You know, I really appreciate. God, I was just on a show with Sam Ellefson, and who's amazing. He has a great special out on YouTube called Minnesota Nice, I think. And
if you could help me, he's another person that I haven't been able to get across that cold DM.
Yeah,
but like I just need someone to say, hey, you got to go eat this guy's chicken, and
100%,
he'll come in and
100%. Yeah, no, Sam Ellefson's great, and I love working with him. We have very different styles of comedy, but he mostly works as a clean comic. He's pretty pretty clean in his sets, and it's so great to get to pass notes back and forth with him after shows, and like that makes me better, you know what I mean? Like getting that feedback makes me better. Not that you should just go up to a homie and be like, you should do this, but I really love that people will come up and be like, yo, I gotta, like, not to like step on your set, you know, I have a tag for this if you want it, you know, and I'm like, yo, absolutely, always take the tag, right? I always take the tag, and like I sometimes use it and sometimes I don't, and either way I just appreciate that people are like listening and engaged and trying to like make each other better. So like, yeah, no, I mean, Denver scene definitely, like, I have my qualms with it, but overall I'm very grateful to be here, and I think that it is very underrepped in some ways for how many heavy hitters we have here. Like, oh my god, I mean, like with BK coming out of here, Sammy Ann's are absolutely crushing the scene, Sam Ellefson always like doing great, Morgan Gall is fucking incredible, Hannah Jones is amazing. I mean, like, we just have so many, and like I just left out hundreds of people that are headliner quality. Yeah, much love you, Denver.
What other scenes have you spent time in?
Spent a decent.
You said Atlanta, but
yeah. I wish I was more ingratiated to the Atlanta scene now. That was all, you know, years ago, and I was barely a toe into an open mic before we hit a pandemic, you know. So
gotcha.
But,
yeah, I guess this is good. When did you start? I never got to ask that.
That's a good question. I technically started in 2019. I had done 2 mics, and then we have the pandemic, and I didn't do anything. And at that point, I like was living in Colorado, and then I didn't actually start, like, for me and like my clock and the way that I see that I'm like doing it, which to me kind of constitutes like I resolved to be like, I'm going to at least 1 to 2 mics a week, no excuses, every week, like, and I started doing that in 2022, January of 2022, and right, yeah, and I just celebrated, I don't know, whatever it was like, I just celebrated like my like full 2 years. And so I'm going into my 3rd year now by like my count of like
consistency.
Yeah.
Wow.
Cause it's like, I'd wanted to do it for years, but like, that doesn't really count as like doing it to me. And like, I did like an open mic and, you know, here or there, but like, it was just kind of me being like, that one time I, you know, did that crazy thing, you know, it wasn't actually like a practice, you know? And I feel like, yeah, now I feel like I can say I've been in the game for like going on 3 years. Yeah.
What have been some of the lessons that you've learned, or like unexpected nuggets of information that you stumbled on the journey that you might be able to share with someone, that if there's a kid out there watching that's like 15 that dreams of doing an open mic in 3 years when he can finally get into one?
Man.
It's a tough question because everybody's journey through this art form is so individual.
Yeah. I don't know. Best decision I ever made. Best decision I ever made was to go to a mic.
Speak more about that. What do you mean by that?
I just like, I think that moreover, I thought the thing that everybody always tells me, which is like, I could never do that. I'm so scared. Like, I could never do that. That's like so scary to get out. It's so vulnerable. It's so, you know, what if nobody laughs, you know, whatever. Like, I was terrified of all of that. And sometimes I still am. But like, at the same time, like now I'm like, I don't know. I kind of relish in sometimes sets that could have gone better. I kind of rely on it in almost a superstitious way about like some sort of set karma, that like you have some good sets and you have some bad sets, and the bad sets you build up kind of make the good sets better, you know? And like I really found my community in this, and I didn't expect comedians to be as open-minded given kind of the reputation and in like higher up circles of like comedy world, but in general, and I realized this along the way, comedians will like kind of see something work. They'll see a good joke happen in the room and then be, you know, shockingly willing to kind of change their approach or change their mind about a topic because the proof's in the pudding. They just laughed at the joke. And that can work both positively and negatively, right? That makes people more bigoted in sometimes their content because they see something really raucous landing. And then other times it can be, you know, the opposite as well, where they're like, woof, this crowd really, you know, they really want something that's pretty nice and tidy and clean and, you know, family friendly or whatever. And people will kind of lean that direction sometimes as well. And I just think that it's so neat to see, like when I started doing this, like I remember literally my first mic, like that was like the lesson, and was that people are more open-minded than I was willing to give them credit for at the time. And people were making just trans joke after trans joke, and they're not even like good jokes either. You know, like I like a good bad trans joke too. Like I built an entire career out of it, right? But like people were basically just being like, well, if I ever see a tranny, I'm gonna go kill him in the parking lot. And I'm like, wow, like, and everyone's like, ha ha, and I'm like, I'm gonna fucking go get shot in the parking lot after I do this set. And I like went up and I did like my stuff, and like immediately afterwards, like first of all, I had people being like, yo, that was great, which was like, great. We love that, right? We love a compliment. But then, moreover, the next homie that went up after me, instead of being like, I'm gonna go beat up a trans person, or like, I can't believe, like, what a disgusting, you know, abomination, he was like, yo, dude, I just gotta ask, because I was like talking about penis prosthetics, which is the funny part of being a trans guy. And he was like, I gotta ask, like, for your prosthetics, like, do you have like a Sears catalog where it's like circumcised, uncircumcised? And I was like, yes, like literally, yes, we do. And like, that was so fun. You know what I mean? And so it completely changed the like direction of humor from being like, I want to throw up because that's a trans person that I think should die, to being like, man, that's something ridiculous you must experience. That's pretty funny. Totally different, totally different. You know what I mean? And completely changed the tone of the rest of the mic. And then to watch comics that had like said some pretty brutal stuff come up to me afterwards, and they shook my hand and they were like, yo, that was a great set. Like, I love that. Like, or, you know, how long you in town? Like, whatever. They were so like flexible. They were so willing to kind of accept that, oh, maybe there's like a better way to do that. Oh, maybe there's a better tagline. Maybe there's a better way to run this joke. It's a lot harder to get sometimes people to change their mind about something, but comedians were just like, oh, wow, you done shown me a different way. Well, that's pretty cool. All right, I could take that on. I could try that next time. You know what I mean? Like, even without me suggesting anything, like just kind of in that presence. So like, that was something that I learned that I did not necessarily expect, was just falling in love with other comedians in like the work, and how they were so open-minded and flexible and willing to play and willing to, you know, change. And that just gave me a lot of hope. And so, like, that was definitely a big one. And also, like, I don't know, before, like, this is going to sound kind of grandiose, I guess, but, like...
Do it. This is a grandiose show.
Like, people are always like, oh, I could never be confident enough to, like, do that. Or I'm, like, too scared to do that. And, like, as much as this sounds, like, redundant, I'm like, you do it scared. Like, do it scared. Like, that's almost better to do it scared, because like once you realize that like you can go up and do that, then like you kind of can do anything, you know, like, and to me, if that's, you know, at first it was just going up and putting my name on the list. I was too scared to put my name on the list. I went to mic after mic and I just couldn't do it. And I would just watch and I would just be like, no, maybe not today, you know? And like, no, put your name on the list. Like, put your name, do it scared. Do it if your hand is trembling. Do it if you can barely sign your name. Put your name on the list. Like, start step one, you know? Like, pick up the microphone. Like, even if you are scared to pick up the microphone, right? And then like beyond that, it has now translated to like, you know, doing the bear show, which was so scary. I was so scared to do comedy naked. And like, I did it scared, and it was okay. And I had so much fun. And that's like so empowering and liberating and fun and cool. And so like, yeah, to get confidence, you got to get courage. And the only way to get courage is to actually be willing to do something and be scared while you're doing it. And like being able to sit with the anxiety and the fear and kind of invite it as a companion on stage with you, and like in your sets. And sometimes people see it and they think that you're nervous, and sometimes people don't see it and they think that you're super confident, and sometimes people see it and they just think that you're being relatable and authentic, and all of those things are true, right? And so like, that's, yeah, I'd say like two pieces that I've really learned is like, being flexible is a skill, and taking that on as like a personality trait has benefited me professionally in comedy and personally in comedy in my life. And then also being willing to do something and still be scared to do it, like, but do it anyway. Like, that's what's up. And it's really freeing and has made me a better person and a better artist. And I'll see people do it, and I encourage people to do it that are afraid to like go up, and like, man, I just like beam with pride when I see someone kind of like, it's not even conquering their fear. It's like collaborating with your fear. It's like learning to cooperate, because then your fear kind of has that almost same respect
It's
for
almost you like
know?
open the door to your fear, and you're like, "Yo, why are you outside? Like, let's just talk right
like,
here
all
through
right,
the door.
Just come on in, man. Yeah, if you're like this scary, just like might as well just like make yourself comfortable.
We have
I guess.
another seat at the table. Like, just come eat with us.
Exactly. And that, to me, I see people then bring their full selves to their work, and like that's when good comedy happens, you know, is when you're really like feeling yourself up there, even if it's like the caricature you've made. Like that's so cool to see. And so, yeah, I'd say that both of those things have been like big lessons that I didn't expect, and I'm just infinitely grateful for. Yeah.
Do you have brothers, sisters?
I have 2 sisters. They're older than me. They're like 80s kids. And so
how old are you?
I'm 28. I'm a 90s baby. And so I grew up with a lot of their stuff too. So it's like I like
an old soul for your age.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, you know, where I just like my references are like a little bit staggered from the rest of millennials that are my age sometimes, because I grew up with their VHS hand-me-downs as opposed to what was actually happening at the time when I was growing up, which was more of like the CD kind of early iPod gen.
Right. What's that really sad? Fox and the Hound. So you saw Fox and the Hound the real way.
Oh, so depressing. I'm like, why can't we have a happy gay story? Why does all gay have to end in tragedy? That's so rude. And like, I feel like that was just such an obviously like a gay relationship of like they're come on, they're so into each other, and they're like, we could never, and then one of them like joins like the hateful team, and they're like, you know what I mean, ends up being a homo. I'm like, this is internalized homophobia. This is what it does. Tearing families apart.
There's a lot of projection amongst Disney films like that.
Yeah, they either take like a Bible story and they repurpose it, or they take some type of cultural issue.
You telling me Mulan isn't trans representation?
A lot of it's probably.
Come on, man.
Have you seen, what's that movie with the gecko? Ringo, is that the one? Rango. Holes with Shia LaBeouf.
Yo, classic. Holes still holds up.
If you look at him in Holes, and then you look at him doing that like 90-day stream in front of a flag, it's an interesting dichotomy of Shia LaBeouf.
I mean, dude, anything.
Shia LaBeouf. Classic. Oh my God! Yeah, he does that. He like I forget the original one that was referencing, because it's like it's like an OG.
It's a choir that does a whole like dramatic ensemble about Shia LaBeouf murdering you in the
yeah, and it's just him clapping, which is like a film reference. That's like an old film, and it's like he nails it too.
Wow.
It's like if you watch the original, it's like a black and white old 50s kind of thing where like some dude has that experience in a theater, and he sits down and he's like, and like I watched Shia LaBeouf and I was like, wow, like we think this is satire, and it is, but also that was like the most spot like frame for frame acting of that original reference I've ever seen. Like,
you can't deny that. He's an incredible actor.
oh, absolutely. Honestly, favorite Shia LaBeouf feature in Sia, I think. Elastic Heart, I think it is, and it's the music video, and yeah, he's interacting with this like dancer, and they're like in a cage, and it's super weird interpretive dance. Like it's weird, right?
Got a lot of negative criticism.
Yeah, but it was like, man, I watched it and I was like, why am I crying? Like, this is like so good. Like, it was so emotional, and even though it's like weird and esoteric, it like really was emotionally evocative, and I was like, yo, that's like, that must be good art. You know what I mean? Like, for it to be that ethereal and still hit so hard, like that's gotta be some good stuff. So yeah, shout out Shia LaBeouf, big fan.
Our
Big fan.
Doritos Locos sponsor of this episode, Shia LaBeouf. Thank you for I don't know how Doritos Locos got their name on that, but they're the episodes. Whatever, damn it, send me the check. Come on, Mars
promo plug.
They're one of the 5 companies that make all the food that we eat. 98% of all the food. Mars, subsidiary of Doritos Locos.
Follow the money.
Dude, I followed the money, and then I got sad.
So I was gonna say you're an economist, yeah. So you're just like,
I was young and I was interested in the world and politics and history, and I started following the money and history, and I was like, damn, this is just not a.
This is pretty.
I'm sad about life.
What a depressing oligarchy we're in right now.
For real.
Yeah, no, that's super real. What's your like, I guess, favorite lesson? Because I imagine I certainly absorb a lot of lessons, and I really try to prioritize watching comedy as much as I try to prioritize like practicing and performing it, right? And because I get so much out of seeing other people's acts and seeing their presence on stage and how they like navigate people. What's like,
I have a good answer for this one.
yeah, like what are you learning kind of being, you know, a doorman at a club and
being on the soundboard, being in the room, watching sets? The biggest thing I've learned is that it's as close to magic as it can get, in that I have seen in that whatever you let the crowd believe they know to be true is true. So like I've seen people do, you know, the same, they're working out the same stuff. And so I know the material, and let's say they mess up something or they say something backwards in the first 2 minutes, and they show the crowd that they messed up. The crowd recognizes that they see that the person knows they messed up, and they lose confidence.
Yeah.
And then I've seen other people like not acknowledge a mistake, or like make the mistake and or be like, oh, pause those first 2 minutes, like this is going terribly, and just recalibrate.
They reset.
It's like you're on a train, you're bringing people on the train, and you're trying to get them to all look out at the same sites and agree that they're important sites to see. And it's hypnosis in a lot of weird ways.
That's such a beautiful analogy.
It's like a collective. Yeah. So if you're an MC, your job is to get everybody on the train and in their seats. And if they didn't look at the same sites and laugh at the same sites, well, that's not you shouldn't feel bad that set didn't rise to whatever you were hoping it to. You're the MC. Are they in their seats, and are they ready to look out when the next person tells them to look out? Then you did your job.
Wow. That's really beautiful. And also like that hits really hard for me, because my first, I don't know, kind of like intro into comedy really was as a RAF guide, which I worked at, you know, for years. And at my first job, and at most jobs that you do as a commercial RAF guide, you have to tell jokes on the bus on the way to the river. And usually that can be anywhere between a, 5 to a 30-minute bus ride. And some outfitters that you work for, they expect you to tell jokes the whole time. And you have to tell family-friendly jokes that are kind of canned. You can theoretically throw your own in there, but that's not necessarily the game. And like, you're literally also a tour guide. So you're like, if you look out, this side, you're going to see old Schoolhouse Ridge and proof that we once had a school here in West Virginia. You know what I mean? Like,
before the Trump administration canceled.
Literally. Literally, yes. And like, so it's like, it's such a cool analogy to me, because I'm like, wow, that's literally like what my first intro to jokes were as well, which is like, I'm trying to get all of y'all to look at this site and like laugh at the joke and be on my team, and also listen to what the hell I have to say, because if you don't hold your paddle like this, you're going to knock somebody's teeth out. Shout out to me, who lost 3 teeth in my white career. Yeah, this is a whole bridge, babe. Seriously. And so like, yeah, that's a great analogy to me, because I'm like, wow, that's like literally what it was too. And that is what comedy is.
And,
to me. Like,
and
that's beautiful.
I'm grinding my teeth. I've got 10 more years of grinding my teeth before I even think I'm going to be good or whatever. And I know that because I love the art form, and I know it's a marathon. But like, it's hard for you not to want that set to go the way you want it to go. But you also need to kind of, I think, as someone trying to get better at things you're working on and facing that resistance, facing that fear, is like, you need to be like contextualizing a little bit of like, yeah, you probably shouldn't do the, Roman salute jokes on your MC set, because guess what? Maybe someone will get out of their seat and not be ready for the next site that the person coming up next is good, because they're like, what the fuck was that?
Totally.
So, and if you're that feature, maybe give them enough snackage so that they're not hungry when that main person gets up there. They've had a little aperitif, they're ready to like fully listen and lock in, type of thing.
Yeah, no, I really love that. And like, also, especially that kind of perspective on MCing and hosting, I think is really important, because I think it's the hardest job. And because you got to break the room open, and you have to keep them in and like contained and like on your side too, because if something happens, you need them to listen, and like, I don't know, that's definitely really sage advice. I think that yeah, I don't know, I'm definitely more nervous about like hosting than I even am headlining, because you want to do really well, but you don't want to do so well that like the opener doesn't exactly have like the floor. But also I want to like test the room a little bit, but I don't want to really dip a toe too hard over the line, because you need people to be warming up. It's like a warm up for a reason, right? We're not just like jumping into a full on like power lift before we're stretching them a little bit, because otherwise they're going to like have an adverse reaction, instead of having the sense of humor lubed up enough for the next performer to be able to actually make that condom joke that like I can't necessarily make right off the bat.
Exactly.
So it's like that real fine line. And like I'm hosting most of the shows on tour because I think it's the hardest job, and I don't want to give that to anybody else to like have to do in a bit of a, I don't know, sometimes risky situation. So,
right.
Yeah. No, that's all good advice.
And then you can like then serve as the foundation for laying out, because it is a thematic thing in a sense. It's not a one-off show. So you get to, incorporate that theme into the top. And I think that will help the rest of the show kind of flow nicely.
Yeah, I think the host sets the tone, Yes. And sometimes I see people go up and they'll like, there's a couple, I don't know, there's like some archetypes to like hosting I'll see, where it's like, you got the homie that's like, especially at a mic, but I've seen it at shows too, and I'm like, that's wild, dog, we're getting paid. But like they'll be like apathetic beyond belief. They're like, I can't believe I'm here, you don't want to be here, and I don't want to be here, why are we even here, give it up for your next performer. And I'm like, yo, that's like, I don't know, sometimes it's funny because there is a certain comedy persona of like, I hate everything, don't you hate everything, everything is awful, this is awful too, I'm awful, you're awful, we're both awful, like there's something funny to kind of the malaise and self-hating. Sometimes it's genuine, and I'm like, I don't like that, and the audience doesn't like it either, and then they're kind of like,
because they can see that it's
yeah,
real,
and they're gonna mirror you and like your response to being like, well, I don't really want to be here either. And then I've seen other hosts that like, I really try to emulate this, which is like kind of almost campy high energy, where they're just like, that's what I'm talking about, left side of the room, you know what I mean? Like I'm like, hell yeah, dude, like I love that. And like I once had somebody give me such a good compliment, shout out Dash, in San Francisco, but we were in a festival in New Orleans together, and we were in this little coffee shop, and there was maybe like 7 people in there when we started, and like the room filled up eventually, actually, but like it started out like loud and small and like not ideal, right? And I went up and I was just like kind of determined to have the best time I could have. And so I'm like running around the room on a wireless mic, and I'm like, messing with people, and I'm like playing around. And he like came up to me after the show and he was like, dude, like that was just a little rinky dink coffee shop, and you just treated that like it was like Madison Square Garden. And like that, it like everyone felt it. Like that was so cool. Like great work. And I was like, yo, thank you so much. And like, to me, that like hit where I was like, okay, that's how I'm going to think about it. Like every set, I'm going to try to make Madison Square Garden. I feel like there's a couple comics that do that so well. I feel like Mitch Jones brings that energy to every show I've ever seen him be on. He's always just like, I mean, it could be 3 people in like an empty bar. I've like literally done those shows with Mitch Jones, and he will still be like red in the face, sweating, screaming about, a Burger King burger into a mic. And it's like amazing work. And I just like so appreciate hosts that bring just like a level 11 energy. But like doesn't always, work for everybody. And then I like hosts that are kind of like, they're very reflective of their audience. They'll be like, we're having a good time. And then they're like, you all doing okay? I was all right. We're still having a good time. It's almost like they're kind of like a pragmatist host vibe. It's like a realistic energy. Right. So I feel like there's kind of that spectrum.
The international relations host.
Yeah, very much so. They're like, we're still cool. We're still all right. We only got 3 more comics left. You know what I mean? Like that's such a vibe to me. So I like to watch the way that hosts like wrangle people as well. I think that's like such a skill, and I want that. Shout out PJ Johnson and Anthony Crawford, especially at the Lions Lair. They're like so good at wrangling people and like making it a show, even if it's just them or it's like a million people in them. They like nail that energy every time. So that's like, that's a skill that like people have and they build, and I want it.
Well, it sounds like you're building it.
Trying.
When does this tour kick off? The West Coast, the first step?
Yeah, so West Coast is March. We start March 1st. Our first show's in Boulder, and then we'll go Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, Washington, Oregon, California, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Utah.
Wow.
And that's our first leg, and that's just March. And then our East Coast leg, which is a whole bunch of states I'm not going to name, that's April, May. Then we have a little break.
And then the third leg.
And then we do northern states, southern states, and states that we can't drive to. So like Alaska and Hawaii are like our last stops. And that'll take us all the way to November.
Wow.
Jeff Stonick I'm so fortunate, is coming along with us, which is great. So we have a videographer, we have a documentarian, which is so cool. And like, I'm just excited because like a lot of this is going to be a bunch of trans comedians in a car together driving an unbelievable amount of mileage. And even just on Zoom calls with each other, like people can't help but riff. You know, you put comics in a room together, they can't help but like riff. And like, it's so fun because they'll just like, man, these homies are funny. And so they'll really get me going. And I'm really excited because I think that Jeff will have a good time. And I think that it's just going to be ridiculous to film because like, everybody's a comic, everybody's also just like a bit of a rascal, and everyone's queer, and so like that's just like a recipe for something kind of outrageous. And I think it's gonna be really fun. So March, we have 1 month from today. I think that this will come out in a couple of weeks, so it'll be even sooner than now. But yeah, right now I have like a month to get ready, so I'm going to Mike's like every night right now. I'm trying to like drill myself with like stuff I want to get honed in because I've been writing content for it. And I really like to get Mike tests.
Is it going to be all new stuff for you as far as?
You know, I think every show I want to be different. Okay. I thought about doing like kind of the same set every time. I just don't believe in that for myself as a creative. I think that if I do the same set every time, I like lose my spark in it. I like need to have fresh content. I need to have diversified content for it to feel like a real challenge and for me to stay super present in what I'm saying. And so each show's different. I kind of have a decent template for like how I try to establish my sets, which is like kind of MC stuff, you know, mine, like kind of, I try to do like my little like intro stuff. I try to touch base with the audience and have some interaction with them, even if it's just like, who here's queer, or like, you know, asking some kind of crowd work question. I like to do then a longer bit that's like a story because I'll have gotten some fast punches in before. I break up that with like some regional content because I think that if I'm in a new place, I don't know, like I feel almost obligated to do regional content. It's like for me, myself as an artist, to like write it and then also to perform it. I think it helps us all have that sense of time and space and like place, you know, that like communal sense of space. Even if it's just about the building or it's about the state in general or it's about the laws that the states have or like whatever. And then I'll usually do like, you know, that's when I'll insert like a new bit is like I'll do my regional bit and a new bit. And then I'll have a really good kind of backup bit as like my closer. And that's like my 7 to 10 that I'm going to be trying to do on the road. So it gives me a guideline without locking me into like, and this is when I do my micro penis joke, you know what I mean? Like I don't want to be there. I would like to kind of have some wiggle room.
Yeah. I'm the same way where it's like as a creative, as someone doing the work, it's like why is that serving me? I don't think it is.
Yeah. Right. So, but more power to the people that I see like really hone in on their stuff, you know what I mean? And they're like by a second, you know, and I respect that. I try to do that with the individual bits. I'll try to hone in on the bit and then kind of throw the bit in the backpack, you know what I mean? And then be like, all right, you know, I'm at a picnic. You know what I really need right now? A napkin and, you know, like a water bottle, right?
This is a great analogy because I think that's all right. It's kind of like what they taught us in econ. It's like you're not learning anything. You're putting tools in a toolkit. Bingo. And then you get a problem that faces you in the world and you go, let's try this tool. Oh, doesn't work. Let me try another tool.
Yeah. And like I also really do believe in like in some ways quantity over quality because the more sometimes I've written, man, I just had this come up the other day. I like wrote something literally it was like the first year of writing I ever had. And I like wrote this joke about and it's basically about dreadlocks. They're about like white guy dreads, you know? And I saw a dude with one really big dread the other day, and it was like a white guy with just one big dread. And it was like funny because like somebody early on had given me the feedback, hey, you know, they're called locks, not dreads, right? And I was like, oh, that's good feedback. I'm a white guy, so like thank you for that, you know? And like I was like, oh man, like one big dread. And I was like, is it one big lock? And I was like, no, they are locks. It is a dread. You know what I mean? Like, and I was like, oh damn, there's the joke. You know, so it's like this little tag that was years in the making kind of suddenly had a place. And that's not even a great joke, but just to have like a kind of, I don't know, it's like you finally have this puzzle piece that's been set aside for so long that finally finds its home. Like that feels really great. And I think that having more tools in the toolkit is like the aim, rather than being like, this is the order of operations for how I build one furniture item, and that is the only thing I know how to build. You know, like
right now I've got like, you know, I think I've got, you know, 1,000-piece puzzle I'm trying to build, and I've got 100 from this box, 200 from this box. I'm missing 5 over here. It's like it's still kind of, you know, kind of that stage of like, oh, what's the picture gonna be when it all comes together?
Yeah, and also like the consistency of writing, I think, is so important, because you'll have stuff that becomes relevant again. Sometimes, unfortunately, right? Like I made a joke when New York sky was like orange, and I was like, you know, orange is the new black thing from Fern Gully, you know, and like I got to reuse that joke like 2 weeks ago because of the California fires, right? And so as much as it's like, you know, it's like, right, it's like, obviously I don't want these bad things to happen. It's like, you know, in like current events, like stuff will repeat, or like you'll make a joke about Father's Day.
That's why I don't write about genocide.
And then, like, yeah, that's right.
Because then I'm wishing for it, and I don't want that.
That's right. Tread carefully with those genocide jokes. I only have one joke about genocide that's actually funny. It's because it's not about genocide. It's about teachers who have to wake up at 8 a.m. and be like, all right, class, what are we learning today? Genocide. I'm just like, God, man, that's brutal. Like, what a brutal job. Anyway, yeah, no, like just the writing consistently, having stuff carry over the next year. In the moment, it's so hard to not be like, I want to write the funniest joke that I've ever written right now, and it has to be unique and blah, 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 blah. And like, I don't know, man, like maybe you just write a decent Mother's Day joke, and actually that goes by a year and you get some skills, and then you bring it back that next Mother's Day, and it's like a killer joke now, you know what I mean? Or it's just a, you know, decent one-off joke, and you can throw it into your set when it is that time. And like, that's cool. So having more and more has been helpful, even if like not all of it is great. I think that like, yeah, I used to be like I used to believe that like quality over quantity of jokes was like the key to success. I think that now I am much more the other way around, where I'm like, no, if you continue to practice and you continue to write and you continue to try new things and new perspectives or new tags, like that is the equation to being successful as a creative. Whatever that success means to me, that means like I'm being prolific, and I'm like more often than not able to believe that something can be funny for somebody, and find a way to make it funny. Like that feels good. So yeah, keep writing always, I feel like, is the solution when I'm like hitting a hard place too.
Well, that was my like back door of like, well, I can't do it all the time because I can't physically stand. I'm in too much pain.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I can't go to mics. I'm going to write a joke a day. That's my minimum bare entry. Like, we're doing the rep thing.
Yeah.
And that compounds. It totally does. Really I've started to see that. It's like, wow, just keep doing it. Just keep fucking doing it.
Yeah,
keep working.
Keep going. And I think that Steve Martin has a wonderful quote about this in his book, Born Standing Up, which is like a read that you can do that book in like an afternoon. So if you're like not a reader and you need a book that you can actually finish to say that you read a book this year, that's a great one.
Also, the audio book is great because he reads it.
Yeah,
and so you 100%. Get the inflection of the jokes when he's reading them.
You know, yeah, it's so good. And he has a wonderful quote in there that's, I believe, like, consistency is a great replacement for talent. And is the only way to build skill. And I'm like, that's so true. Like, that's so good. And I loved hearing about him, you know, talk about what he felt were like, you know, decades of being bad at comedy before being like amazing at comedy, you know, and that's to me inspirational as well, that I'm like, you know, I want to be the best I can be. I'd be lying if I said that I didn't want to be like what the Robin Williams of trans comedy. Like, that's real, you know, but at the same time, like, I will also settle for being like resilient. I will like settle for being like showing up well consistently. And even if I can't show up funny, I'll try to show up tacky. And even if I can't show up tacky, I'll try to show up friendly. You know, like there's kind of different wins that you can have throughout, and like staying consistent staying in the game. Like, yeah, I don't know. That to me, that's almost like more important than just being like the funniest homie in the room, is like showing up as best as I can, as often as I can, because at the end of the day, like, I am confident that I'm going to still be standing and doing comedy in like 10 years, you know, if I'm so lucky. Right. And like, I want to, and if I'm doing that in front of sold out theaters, that's great. And if I'm doing that at empty open mics, that's great, because like I am here to practice, you know, and I'm here to be in it. And like, I don't know, like, you know, what right? It's like the like slow turtle, you know, wins the race or whatever, right? The slow and steady wins the race. So it's like,
well, that was what Mitch Jones, I asked him, like, what piece of advice you have? You've been doing it for so long. Like, and his advice was, you got to go at your pace that keeps the love growing.
Yeah.
Because if you go too fast or whatever, and then it flares out, whatever, you know, there's ups and downs and valleys and mountaintops. But like, if your love isn't consistently stepping up and up and up for the thing that you're pouring yourself into, then you're not going to stay at it.
God, that's so real. No, that's so true. And like, I think that for me, like a lot of the, often I will like, I really try to come back to like gratitude in spaces and shows as a way, also as a way to kind of cope with the anxiety of performing, right? Is like, I will notice often that comedians want to be cool. You know, we all want to be cool. We all want to look cool while we're doing this. I want to look cool. I
actually don't think I'll ever be cool. I'm only ever going to be tall. Like I could cure cancer, stop war, like help everyone, and they'd be like, here lies a tall man.
God, that's real. I dated a dude that was 6'9" for like years, and that was like consistently the thing. People would be like, gosh, you sure are tall. It's like, Jesus.
What a nice, friendly, funny, kind, tall man.
Yeah, that's right. I do not envy you that. No. Yeah.
Sorry to interject, but I do believe that I won't be able to carve out cool at any point in my life.
Yeah, but like now it's like, I don't know, happy is the new cool, first of all. And second of all, like when I'm able to walk into a space and I'm like, yo, I'm like genuinely, like I'm not just saying it. Like it starts with affirmations, but like I really believe it. And when I can feel myself believe it, that's when I have a good show, is when I walk into a space and I'm like, yo, I'm so grateful to be here. I'm like so grateful to be here. I'm so grateful for all these homies that turned up right now. Even if it's 3 homies, I'm like, wow, I can't believe, I'm so grateful these 3 homies saw this empty bar and decided to sit down and laugh instead of leave. I'm so grateful that the show is sold out. I'm so grateful I get to work with such cool people. I'm so grateful I get to work with new people that I've never worked with before. Like,
it's giving height.
Now this is the perspective, folks. This is the heighted perspective over here.
It's giving a height.
It's giving height.
I'm not usually. I'm pretty short. But besides that, yeah, I think that the gratitude is like such a thing. And to like enter in a space with gratitude and into like,
you're manifesting that gratitude in the crowd, and you're manifesting that good energy.
People
and
can feel it, man. People can really feel when you're like actually happy to be somewhere.
It's like
with
hippy
them.
dippy, whatever, bouldery. Like I, grew up Boulder public schools. Like it's kind of true. The whole manifesting secret. Like you do create reality if your thoughts and if you're channeled enough into the world and what you're giving out, like, you're creating it.
Yeah. And so the thing that I like, the mantra that I like hold on to for dear life, and I feel like Mitch Jones and I literally have had conversations about this exact thing, because you brought up, like do it however you can do it with love continually. You can continue to grow with love, right? For me, that looks like I am so grateful for an abundance of opportunities to bring and cultivate joy, for other people, knowing that when I do that, I'm elevating the joy in my own life, right? Like that's like the mantra I try to say before like every show is like, I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to bring joy, knowing it'll make my joy like elevated too, and I really firmly believe in that. And so suddenly knowing that I'm in an abundance of opportunity for joy to happen, like that's a whole different mindset than I just walked into this shit show with people that aren't going to like my jokes and only 3 people are in attendance. That's a very different way to like approach your set, And so to me, to be able to be like, nope, I'm going into that abundance mindset. I'm going into that gratitude mindset. And I'm able to be present with these people and grateful that they're here, even if this is just ridiculous or the coolest thing in the world. Like, regardless, like suddenly that gratitude is like it's like a rope. It's like a seatbelt almost in like feeling empowered when there's a lot of external stuff happening. I might be really anxious. I might be kind of like tired that day, whatever it is. And so it allows me to show up with love, and it kind of like keeps me going, you know, on days that you don't feel like showing up. And so like, I think that like, yeah, if I could like kind of impart anything to anybody in the comedy journey, it's like, yeah, keep going for sure. And try to do it with gratitude, which to me fosters that love of the sport, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love for the sport. Maybe that's the name of the
love
episode.
For the game. Do it for the love of the game, babe.
Folks, we did record a little Patreon premium during the eating. I will try to actually edit and put that out for you.
Oh my gosh, it's like such a funny hot take too. We're just like, it's like literally me being like, oh, a cute dog. Also trans athletes.
It's actually great. So it needs to be out there. So go check it out. We're opening up to the lowest dollar figure that they'll let me do. It's like $2 a month or something. They'll take part of that anyway. Just support. And I promise you, it just goes back to great guests like Ren and food for them, and none of it's going to my pocket. If anything, it'll go into Chris's pocket for gas money.
Y'all support the arts.
Thank you.
Support the arts.
Have you? Like, you know, we don't need to get out here, but I do want to get you heighted. Have you heard of this country called England?
England.
We broke away a while back.
Oh yeah, I think I heard about them.
2% on tea, and we're like, that's about enough of that.
That's right. It talked like it got like rocks in the bottom of their mouths sometimes. Yeah.
Well, that's their teeth. They're so misplaced.
Is that what it is?
You'd think it's pebbles in their mouth, but no, it's their teeth. Anyway, they've got this silly little thing over there in England called knighting. Knighting. Yeah. Here at Top Shelf Studios, after a long form conversation, I am doing the heighting. Because people all my life, friend, they've been like, hey, how's the weather up there? Can I get a couple inches? And stuff like this.
Oh, yeah, okay. I see.
I've come to realize now I've got this prefrontal lobe. I'm like, it's just a meat suit. It's just a vehicle. My consciousness
wakes up. I've been saying that for years.
I just wake up in this vehicle every day. And it's like, oh man, out in the world, I see people judging each other on these vehicles and these meat suits and more than anything else almost. Mm-hmm. It's like, why? Mm-hmm. That's just so not the thing. People are so much more than that. So after a long form conversation, I'm pleased to give you a heart height. How tall do you stand physically?
Oh my gosh, this feels like, I bet this is how ancient Egyptians felt when they died and they had to get their like heart weight against a feather. Y'all know that little like Egyptology fact? Nice. This is like that, but on a podcast with white guys. I don't even know how.
Sponsored by the massage.
I'm like, it's nice because I don't actually know how tall it is. So it's like people are like, you did this good, and you're just like, that's pretty good, right? And they're like, out of that much, and you're just like, less good, maybe. How tall can we go, and how high are we? Do I need to know?
You like this because it's like anything. It's about perspective and gratitude. It's really just meant to be. I'm just trying to spread good vibes with it.
We love a roundabout message.
How tall do you stand physically, though?
How tall am I actually height wise?
Yeah.
How tall is this meat suit? I am 5'6".
Okay.
Wow.
Ren Q. I height thee 7 foot.
Oh my God.
Ren belongs in the 7 foot club.
Up there.
That is a big heart. You're probably going to need several procedures on that bad boy. Please.
Oh my God. If I didn't need, heart surgery, I would go try out for the NBA right
Let me
now.
recommend putting that heart and that big hearted height in some Horcruxes, because then people can't get it.
I'm a Scorpio. We're like way ahead of you.
Like find a pendant, find a snake, do what you need to do.
I'm a comedian. It's obviously a tiny notebook. Come on. Literally the first Horcrux we know about is, let me give you my tiny little gay journal from Voldemort. Heart old school Voldemort back when I was just a little emo kid and not a terrorist. Just kidding. I'm not a terrorist, I swear. I'm right.
Joy terrorist.
Joy terror.
I'm terrorizing you with joy.
Y'all better fucking laugh. Y'all best have a good time.
We'll send you down to Get More for some joy rehab.
That's right. I love that. I'm like, I love being someone in Louisiana once branded me as toxically positive. I loved it, actually. I own that. Like, I really do. I love that. I'm like, I will aggress you into being happy as your friend. I will. I literally will be like, oh, y'all better be proud of yourselves, right? You better be. If you are proud of yourself right now, dog, I will straight up calm down there. Like, I am like, I will harass you into like having a good time with me. And so, yes, no, own it. Joy terrorism.
Joy terrorist. Where can the Ren Q comedy on Instagram?
Ren Q comedy on all the things.
All the things.
Yeah, Ren Q comedy and at here to pee, here2p.com, here to pee on Instagram. We have a newsletter just in case we get zucked, because that might happen now. But yeah, you can find me on all the things, and I'll be on tour literally all year. So yeah.
Well, I hope you would be so kind as to come back when you're back from the tour after all the hard work is over. We'll even do it up bigger. We'll do like a brisket or something.
Oh my God, a brisket? There's not a garage in the world that I would rather revisit than this one. This was so fun. Thanks you so much.
Appreciate that. That means the world.
Yeah, no, this was great. Please support the arts. Go to their Patreon, and please, don't hate trans people for no reason. Just come to a show. I bet we can make you laugh.
I would say don't even support my Patreon. Go see the Here to Pee tour. You're somewhere in the world. You're somewhere in the Western United States. The chances are, go see Here to Pee. I mean, my goodness.
Coming to a shitter near you.
That's right.
March 1st,
Open the stalls. Everyone's coming in.
That's right. That's right.
Actually, tear down the stalls. No more stalls.
That's right.
Make it a high school Catholic bathroom where the boys have to poop so everybody can see.
A cafeteria with a drain in the That's inclusion, baby.
Everything gets down that drain. It's been an absolute pleasure, man.
Fam, back at you. Thank you for having me. This was great. Best wings. Rihanna out of 10.
Well,
catch you on the flip side.
Can't wait for it. I truly cannot wait to keep being excited to celebrate your successes and cheer you on for the next decade, for the rest of my life.
God, you're a sweetie.
I mean it. I really do.
Don't make me cry.
I will be that guy sending you the cold DMs being like, dude, so excited to see you got this thing. We're so excited.
We stand our homies. We stand our homies. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
So keep bringing your light in the world. The world needs you. So fuck yeah. Thanks for liking. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for all you do. And if you're still listening, fuck off and be well.